This is your show, dude.
Okay, well, I will talk about the movie Bad Grandpa. God, there's like, okay, whatever.
You can start with the hooray section and then come over to the killjoy section.
Spoiler alert, she didn't like it.
I don't know what you want from me. I liked it more than I expected to. If that's any consolation.
Alright, so we,
I'm still dumb. Sorry, go ahead.
if you looked up there, you saw that we went and saw Bad Grandpa.
Or possibly down there. I don't know.
It's above us.
Okay. Oh, there it is.
Spatial font reference.
No, keep going. You're doing fine.
Okay, now, we went and saw
Bad
Grandpa, and I thoroughly fucking enjoyed it.
I could tell from the giggling.
I giggled like an idiot at this movie. It's fun. It's stupid fucking fun. But you know what? It's fun. I've been to enough shitty comedies. Are you gonna tell me that Grown Ups 2 was funny?
No, I was giggling at your air quotes. I wasn't trying to do
my bunny ears, but I was gonna do them right here, and then I realized like you
could just do the here. I'll do one over here, and then you do one over there.
They're backwards.
Yay!
All right, so I thought it was really funny. My part of the review's done. No, it's.
I guess there's more to bitch about than there is to laud.
It's a fun style of movie. Like it combines scripted dialogue spots and stuff along with sort of your usual like Jackass style just pranks and weird little things like that on the public. To kind of set up a kind of a quirky, just little cutesy narrative. I mean, nothing deep or anything. Basically, Johnny Knoxville, his character from the old series, Irving, is this little kid's grandfather. His mother is going to prison for breaking her parole on some drug charge. Crack. She loves crack.
Loves crack almost as much as Billy likes fishing.
Yes. And so he has to get the kid to his dad. The dad doesn't want to come up. He lives in North Carolina, Irving, and the kid are up in where were they? Nebraska?
I have no idea.
I think they started in Nebraska. Yeah, because he was in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Okay.
And they're going from there to drop off the kid, as well as the subplot of Irving's wife just died.
So he's disposing of the body, I guess?
Yes. Driving around with her in the trunk for the occasional sight gag.
I think I read online that was like Carolyn Keener.
Catherine Keener, yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah, you weird shit in this.
Well, like, from like the faraway shots, you could tell it was like an actual person, but like up close, it looked like a dummy.
There was so much makeup on her, it didn't matter who she was, in all honesty. And she never moves. She just is a dead body. She lays
good on her
perfectly
because
still.
they could like tip her out of the coffin at one point, and they're like, schlepping her all over the place, and like they've got two movers that they like invited over into the auspices of moving this bed. And they're like, turns out, move this corpse for us. And the movers just kind of do it.
It is surprising the amount of stuff that people will just do.
There was one scene where like they were gonna ship, like he decided, I'm not gonna drive this kid to North Carolina. I know, I'll put him in a box and ship him, and took him to the UPS store. And once they figured out there was a kid in there, the one lady's like, no, we can't do this. The other lady's like, seriously considering it. Like,
she thought about it.
Are you sure? Because they're gonna bang you around a little bit. Well, all right, pack, tape, ship.
Yeah, she's like, well, we can't ship a human. We're like, well, just pretend you didn't see the little shit. And the one lady just starts like closing the fucking box. I'm like,
all right. This is a real short movie.
Done. Stamp. Credits.
Well, it's a big box, so that's stamp.
I assumed it was like a flat rate.
I had a major problem with this movie. I'm You said outside, and this is true, I'm on record as not really liking that character. Because I did enjoy Jackass, but I enjoyed more the, like, I'm Johnny Knoxville, I'm a staple of scorpion in my face, and not so much the, like,
I want to see that one.
go out in public and embarrassing people.
I'm an old man who just shit himself in the street.
Just help me, I'm old and enfeebled. I think that, like, there are two schools of thought in relation to this, and that there's the school of, like, they're, doing a social commentary on, like, society's habit of, forgiving actions in, like, children and old people that they wouldn't normally forgive in, like, regular people. Regular people. Like, peer group age people. And then there's a school of thought that I'm in that it's, like, a kind of disturbing glimpse into their psychology, that it's these, like, overgrown man-children mocking the frailty of age, that it's kind of more reflecting their own fear of death and enfeeblement than it is anything else.
You watched this movie in an entirely different way than I watched. I was like, oh man, he's an old man, he gets hit in the nuts by a kid. Ah!
I'm not going to dwell on that, because I know that, not everyone pays attention to that sort of stuff like I do, but, on strictly just, like, the comedy aspect of this movie, I still felt that it fell flat, because it had some funny parts, it did, and I did laugh a couple times, but for, like, every Jizzy Gillespie, there was a, my Mexican name is El Grande Ding Dong, and that was supposed to serve as a punchline.
It was Mucho Ding Dong.
Oh, excuse me, Mucho Ding Dong.
Also, I'll go on record, the funniest thing to me in this movie is at one point, he mentions that back in the day, the black ladies loved him so much that they referred to him as Jizzy Gillespie.
And my favorite moment in the movie was Brian's reaction to them saying, my name was Jizzy Gillespie, because he just goes, Jizzy Gillespie.
It was funny. It's fucking funny. It's Jizzy Gillespie. It's funny. Jizz is funny.
Like, that kid was adorable, and he had pretty good comedic timing.
That kid was pretty solid.
Like, as far as actually using Johnny Knoxville, aside from, like, the couple of, like, they had him in a shopping cart at one point, because he's like, oh, he's drunk, and, the kid's pushing him so they can go through the drive-thru and what have you. And, like, there's a part where he sits in, like, a kid's ride and ends up, like, shooting him through a window. So, like, in that sense, they use Johnny Knoxville's ability to get the shit injured out of him. But, like, he's not really an improv comedian, so when it came to, like, the patter part, I think that he fell short. So I almost feel like if they'd used someone else, someone who'd be, better at thinking up on the fly comedy for situations like that, I probably would have enjoyed the movie better. Because, like, there were punchlines that fell flat that I think would have, if they had come up with a better comedy line, it would have worked better. And for every, pretty clever bit, there were wildly telegraphed bits that it was just like, oh, okay, I gotta sit through this until they're done doing it. Like when they're at that wedding and there was that table with, like, a big intricate cake and a big intricate pile of champagne glasses. Like, well, that shit's getting knocked over, and they walk in and they just knock that shit over, and there's nothing surprising about that entire bit, Or like, I was bitching on Twitter earlier because Brad mentioned it, and Matthew warned me that there was a diarrhea scene in the movie, Film Brain. And so when they start having a fart...
Name drop for you.
Mr. the Film Brain is what I call him. No. Warned me that there was a diarrhea scene, so when they're in the diner and they start having a fart contest, I'm like, well, fuck me, I'm just gonna be back here until they're done.
I did notice out of my peripheral that you, like, covered up your head.
I don't fucking like diarrhea jokes. Okay, so he stands up on the table, we're getting into spoilers here, and just like, oh, get ready for this one, and just, like, shits all over the wall.
Just paints it
plap.
brown. Paints the fucking thing.
And they're like, oh. And so they just kind of leave, and then they film people's reaction to the shit being on the wall for like 5 minutes. It's like...
I mean, there is the thing that, yeah, with this, honestly, a lot of the stuff they do with him is stuff that they did on the show back in the day. So, I mean, if you watched it back then, it's the same bits now. But, I mean, it's...
Yeah, they had, like, the low-hanging scrotum bit.
But a lot of times, like
He got like
anytime,
his dick stuck in a vending machine at one point.
yeah, anytime though that you have a movie that's based off of like a show, you're gonna have shit like that. Like, I mean, hell, like
Which is fine. I don't mind them reusing bits. I just
half
don't
the
like
shit
them
that they did in
reusing
like
tried-ass bits.
Well, I mean, honestly, like if you think about it, about half or more of the jokes in any like SNL movie is just like, oh, it's like the skit, but it's 2 hours long now instead of 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's. I mean, you kind of run into that wherever because, you know, it's honestly when it comes to like a movie of a show, I kind of see it as like if a band came back together to record like a greatest hits album.
Except
It's
this
basically
wasn't their
what you're
greatest
getting.
hits, though.
Well, it was the greatest hits.
Everyone was gone
of-
except for Johnny. He had to find like a new little fat foul-mouthed kid
Well,
who
yeah,
was
'cause
still amazing. I'm not faulting him.
But yeah, well, the kid they used back then's what, like in his 20s
Oh,
now?
sure.
I don't even fucking
But
know.
that's my point. Is like,
Like
he's the only one
here's
sticking
my
with this.
grandson. He's my age. But no, it's the sort of thing is like yeah, a lot of it did feel been there, done that, and like I say, like it felt like a greatest hits, but it was a greatest hits of a minor section of the
Yeah, it was
show.
the greatest hits of my least favorite part of the show, which I think is probably where we're differing
Didn't
in
help.
opinion.
Yeah.
Although they didn't do as much of the thing that I hate the most, which is the whole like, help, I'm old and enfeebled, come and help me so that I can mock you hidden camera bits. You know, they had like, help, my cock is stuck in the vending machine because I was so horny I decided to hump it. And like, I think that was really the only, well, there was the scrotum bit where he decided to strip at the strip club and his balls are hanging out. And then they were like at a bingo parlor. And he just, like, he'd brought, like, a blender to make margaritas, which was pretty funny. But, like, for other parts, he was, like, opening the markers and just, like, drinking the ink, you know, like old people do. Dementia, hilarious! And it's just, like, filming people's reactions. And that, to me, is not a comedy bit. That's just weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, a lot of the comedy in those scenes just came from seeing just, like, kind of the reactions that people would give.
Uh-huh.
Because yeah, like him just like suddenly drinking like the little ink dauber things at the bingo hall.
Oh, that one
was,
lady in that scene was cracking me
That
up.
was weird, but there were a couple women in that scene like across the table.
Because they were like horrified women, but then there was this one woman who was just cracking up everything he did. And she was what made that scene
She was playing along
tolerable for me.
100%.
Yeah.
Like she didn't know what was going on, but fuck it, she was just gonna go with it. And,
Well, he kept hitting on her. She's like, ah. She was my favorite. No, little kid was my favorite because he was a sport and a joy. He had really good comedic timing. There was one scene.
his choreography, his dance choreography was fantastic.
It was fantastic. Well, because like they.
Kid's good at being a girl in a beauty pageant.
Yeah, they did like a beauty pageant bit where he goes in drag and then he does like I body lies over the ocean and then segues into Sweet Cherry Pie where he's wearing like a hilariously oversized bra and like boy underpants and a garter belt and like go-go boots and is just like doing this kind of rockin' little stripper dance. It's not like gross, but it's obviously a stripper dance, you know?
He did a
and
good job.
He did do a good job, and he was selling it, and he kind of like in the face with the makeup on, kind of looked like Hayden Panettiere, didn't he?
I can see that. I can see where you get that. I just got freaked out though in that whole scene just by like the whole like I don't get in behind that whole toddlers and tiara bullshit.
Oh, that's just disturbing.
Those kids look like fucking aliens.
Well, they kept filming that because most of them looked normal, but they were fixating on that one girl who had like the orange and pink like Frankenfurter eye makeup, you know, and who was like everything that she was saying was really exaggerated, and you could tell that her ma had coached her to do that. So that was kind of creepy, and I felt like the little boy in drag kind of looked more like her than anyone else, you know.
A caricature of a human.
Yes. It's the Honey Boo Boo JonBenet Ramsey school of toddlers and tiaras. But yeah, that's all. It wasn't my kind of movie.
JonBenet Ramsey ref.
Too soon. It's too soon. I know.
Welcome back to the early '90s. I missed you.
But, like, it wasn't my kind of movie, and I wasn't expecting to like it. I did laugh a couple times. Simply liking Jackass isn't necessarily going to make you like this movie, but if you liked those segments of Jackass, then probably you will like it. And it is cute, and it does definitely have an overarching narrative, but not enough of a one, I didn't think. It was mostly just bits strung together to form a sort of a plot.
The entire script, the actual, like, scripted bits.
Yeah, Irving did have character development, but it was really, like, starty-stoppy, you know?
Yeah, it was just at a point he just decides, like, wow, I don't fucking hate this kid as much.
And then he's like, I love this kid, I'm gonna cry at the prospect of losing him. Just out of the blue.
But no, I mean, the entire script could be written down on, like, a cocktail napkin. I mean, but it's the fact that they at least tried, and it's an interesting way to do it like that. You know, it was a good way to try to, like, I mean, when you're taking a show that has no setup, no anything, it's just like, you know, fade from black, you know, like, chair launch, like, hi, I'm Bam Margera, and here's the chair launch, falls off a roof. I mean,
I like the Bam Margera. Fucking snakes, you guys.
But I mean,
so much. Sorry.
Being able to take that's where it's coming from and make an actual narrative out of it. I mean, they gave it a solid try, and for what it is, I mean, it's the best they probably could have done. Because I mean, any more story and it would have been too much to carry in an improv fashion, and it would have just seemed odd then to have, like, all the random parts to it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I wasn't, like, the plot wasn't the sticking point for me, not at all. I was just mentioning it in passing.
Oh yeah.
I did think it was weird, though, that, because, fuck me, Spike Jonze, that's his name, right? Because they touted him, he's actually, like, on the short list of people in this movie, because he plays that, like, old lady prostitute, and he's only in the end credits. Like, he's not in the rest of the movie. Did you see him? Because I didn't.
No, I mean, I'm guessing maybe at points he was probably in those actual shots, like, helping either, you know, orchestrate or film or whatever, because I mean, they had a team of people doing all kinds of stuff, but I'm guessing what it probably came down to
got cut.
is, yeah, they probably just, because I mean, this movie is it clocks at like 80 minutes. It's quick. It's a quick movie. In the amount of stuff that you have to film, because, like, if you notice in some of the scenes, it's the sort of thing is, like, in the show it doesn't make a big difference, but when you are making a movie that is supposed to be a straight narrative, it's jarring when, like, you have some scenes where, like when they're at that restaurant where he shits all over the wall. When they first get there, like, they're talking and everything, and then just randomly, like, people around them just keep changing. Like, there's just different people. And I'm sure it's because they had to just, like, keep, you know, filming and reset and wait till, like, the next day and hope that people came that didn't know what was up. And I mean, you're trying to just control just so many variables that, I mean, I'm sure that there were scenes where she was, you know, Spike Jonze was in it, where it maybe just came off as too preposterous for people to suspend their belief.
That they show he, like, took his titty out and was, like, using it to milk his, like, to put milk in his coffee. No one's gonna buy that.
And yeah, I mean, there's some stuff, it's so absurd. Like in the show it would work because you're filming, like, a disconnected, like, 30-second, like, you know, thing, like, it'd just be like him, like, those two, like, sitting at a table, you know, Irving yelling that he needs cream, squirt, see, like, a guy in the background on his phone, like, what the fuck?
What? I don't understand.
And then
what's
it's
going
the
on.
next scene. So it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not, or if anybody's buying into it, so that they can sit there and have this long dialogue in front of hidden cameras the whole time. So I'm guessing that's probably where a lot of that went, because there were a lot of people listed as, like, basically, like they were, like, kind of just looking at, like less who was in it and more just what characters. were in it. Like, it was kind of interesting seeing which ones were plants and which ones weren't. Mm-hmm. I thought was kind of interesting.
I wasn't picked because like they were putting the credits over like outtakes and be real, and so I was more paying attention to that. Who all was plants?
I can't remember like too many specific. Well, like the how they were able to like get that interview footage.
Oh, okay. I figured
like
she was a
the
plant.
pageant
Yeah.
thing, like the lady who was there, like, hi, yeah, we're doing interviews for the girls here at the pageant, for a little video thing. They were plants, but that was so that they could get some, like, it was stuff like that to where, like, they could like kind of control the situation, but have it not be obvious,
Yeah. There were some genuinely natural moments between Johnny and the little boy, and I did like when they were in the hotel room and the kid just like farts and goes, I just shit myself, and Johnny just like starts cracking up in the corner.
That was the most genuine laughter I've heard in my life.
And they're like, him and this kid did have pretty good chemistry because they're like showing like the footage in the car where they're like just like shooting the shit,
Yeah, just driving around aimlessly, just riffing with each other.
Mm-hmm. So that part I like, but I just like the movie as a whole just didn't work for me.
And sort of an interesting little thing I noticed in the movie, which was the credits, because the like Sarah just mentioned, they got outtakes and B-roll that runs the entire length of the end credits. So everyone in the theater stayed, and for being like an advanced screening, this one was surprisingly packed. So everybody's sitting there through the whole thing, and like everybody's laughing and like, it's all this, and then at the end of the credits, and it's like it fades to black.
Oh yeah.
And then as it's rolling up, and all of a sudden it's like in memory of Ryan Dunn, and everyone in the audience is like, oh. And I could hear people like, and then there's like no more music, no more anything. Like the last little like production credits roll up, and then it's just like the Paramount logo or somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then like everyone was just walking out
silent.
in stone silence. It's like, wow. I mean, it sucks. Like Dunn was one of my favorites throughout the whole, the whole Jackass thing. But I mean, it fucking killed the entire mood in that room. Like everybody's like walking out. Like I heard like one girl like a couple rows up from it's like, that was just sad. Mm-hmm. Like shit like that. It's like, wow. That brought this to a grinding halt.
Maybe they could have like put it at the beginning.
If they'd put it at the
chance to like bounce back from it.
Yeah, if they'd put that at the beginning.
Because everyone who's there is gonna know who Ryan Dunn is.
But I mean, it just. And I'm sure that like they weren't thinking of like doing something weird, but like it's always kind of nice like when you have something like that, like put a little stinger or something at the end of your thing. Don't put on there like a thing that will depress most of the people who are there and will watch it. I mean, it was just kind of like I saw that, I'm like,
on reflection, I think that's okay.
Well, I mean,
the guy did
it's,
die.
It's nice that they did that, it makes
the alternative is I don't want this to stick with you. I'm sure that they do.
But yeah, but it was odd placement. Like you said, if they'd put it at the very beginning.
Yeah, but when would they have put it after the cock goes flying up in the air? Which, okay, speaking of which, that fish was the stupidest thing. Like, I actually did like the ha 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 Skittles laugh. He's like, it's like this fishing bit where he's like at a golf course with like the waist high waders on, fishing in like one of the, I don't know what they're called, like the hazard.
Water hazard.
Yeah. And he's like, oh my god, it's a big one. The line goes completely loose, so he's like following it to the water. And he hauls out this huge rubber fish with all these golfers looking on that has just this pendulous cock and balls, person cock and balls hanging off of the bottom of it.
Turgid.
And then, yeah, well, it's turgid, but it's like sticking straight down, so I'm still calling it I'm sticking with pendulous. And then falls over, so the cock is like laying on his mouth, and he's like, And then that's the end of the bit.
It is very peculiar, too, because the entire movie is told moving forward.
And then there's like, I remember back in the day when I fished
there was one time I went
fish.
fishing and I haven't fished since. And then it just cuts to a segue and like that happens and then it cuts back to him in the car. It's like,
well, you can't cut that bit. It's comedy gold.
But if they couldn't find a spot to put that, just don't do that joke. It felt weird. It's like, I remember this time I was watching the show and then it just cut. Yeah, that just felt really out of place, and it was something that they hadn't done before and they didn't do after. So it was just
never mentioned again.
It was just odd.
I think it
fucking
made a big ass
placement.
penis fish, and they're like, you know what, we're using this.
Like we have to fit it in there, and I don't know how. I don't know how, but we'll fit it in there.
At the end, they didn't know how.
So they just
Just gonna jam it in there.
just stuck it in between some dialogue.
So yeah, that was a non sequitur, but I hated that bit so much that I wanted to make sure I mentioned it.
But it was a very nicely done, like, animatronic fish. Like, the fins were moving.
I didn't
and, like,
notice.
the
I
mouth,
was
like,
fixated in the stupid fucking cock and balls.
Gills were fucking... Like, they put a lot of effort into that and then just stuck, like, a fucking dildo on it. Give me the old dildo
It wasn't
action.
even like the same color as the fish. It was just basically like they got one of the
flesh
suction
tone.
cuppy ones and just...
It was flesh tone. It seemed like the laziest gag in it.
I'm laughing at it now, but I'm laughing at the ludicrousness. Anyway, final thoughts?
I'd say go watch it. I mean, it's 80 minutes. It's a quick sit. It's funny. If you liked, I'll say if you liked like the Irving stuff, in the show, you'll like this. Even if you're just looking for something to kind of, you know, like quick movie to take in, or if you're not sure what else to watch, I mean, it's perfectly fine. Like you'll laugh. I mean, like you even said, like with this being your least favorite character and them doing some of the things that you hate the most, you still found some humor in it. I mean,
Some. Like, well,
you laughed.
basically...
We heard you laugh.
I'm surprised you could... Jesse Gillespie. I'm basically here because no one else could come with you, Brian. I know this is so not my kind of movie, but
It was supposed to be Irving, and then it was supposed to be Ryan. And
they both mysteriously disappeared. That being said, I don't feel like cussing Brad out or anything. It's just kind of like, that was a thing I just sat through. I did laugh a couple times. If this is the kind, if it appeals to you, then you'll like it. If it doesn't appeal to you and your friend wants to go with them, and then they'll owe you a solid. Because it was just not physically painful. Should we talk about the previews? Wait. We should put a break. Duke. Previews.
hi, we're back. I don't know that Brad's gonna
We're
actually
gone. We missed you.
I don't even know if Brad's gonna put a break in here, or if it's gonna be right there.
Just leave it be, just...
That's why I tried not to move. I'm like, yeah, we
got RoboCop again.
got RoboCop again, which
I did want to mention because like the
did you
last
see
time,
Officer Lewis in it this time?
the exploding one. I wasn't paying it cool because like last time we talked about it, I was bitching about all the ways in which it's not like original RoboCop, and I think you made a good point, which is that it's supposed to be more of a reimagining than it is like a direct remake. So I was trying to kind of judge it on its own merits rather than like its likeness to the old one. So just like as a standalone movie, RoboCop notwithstanding, it bored me to tears. So I'm still not big on it, but I'm not big on it for different reasons. So that's something at least.
Can't please everybody. I first saw this about 2 nights ago. Mm-hmm. I showed it to Sarah, and I showed it to Letty. She in the back. There she is. You just see this one tiny little head.
They give you like a screen high five. But Paranormal Activity.
The marked ones.
Heche in Mexico.
It's not even in Mexico. It's in Oxnard, California.
I got nothing. Paranormal Activity 4 Ghost Protocol.
I'll allow it. When I first started watching this trailer, I thought that someone was fucking with me on YouTube because I see, like, you know, official Paranormal Activity Marked Ones trailer 2003. Like, all right, click. And I thought I was getting the trailer for End of Watch. Because it seems like the trailer for End of Watch.
Yeah, the Paranormal Activity doesn't actually, like, the actual activity that is paranormal doesn't start up until, like, 2/3 of the way into the preview.
It's a bizarre, like, if it's... And granted, in the past, like, the trailer for Paranormal Activity 3 had nothing to do with the movie. And then the trailer for Paranormal Activity 4 had everything to do with it. Every scene in that trailer is in the movie. This one, and I did notice it is technically, it's like they're considering it a spin-off. It's not Paranormal Activity 5.
Oh, it's Paranormal Activity presents Paranormal Activity in the marked ones?
Yes. And it's a peculiar movie. It takes place, if you're going by the date stamp on it, because I had to look it up. The first two take place in like 2006. I forget honestly when. Well, the third one's in like the 80s. The fourth one, Letty, you were just watching the fourth one the other day. Do you remember when it said it was taking place?
I know it's more recent, like 2011 or something like that.
Yeah, like it's 2011, 2012, something like that. And this one says that it's 2012. So it doesn't. It's not filmed the same way. It's not done a lot of the same ways. But this one, like, it seems very peculiar. Like, it seems like the main kid in it just suddenly is like there's not all like the haunting and spooky shit. Seems like he just like wakes up with like the fucking like demon bite that like
it's like a lamprey circled.
Yeah, but like the kind of bite that like the other two got like right at like the fucking climax of the movie. He kind of gets that, but instead of turning into like a despondent dick and then suddenly like a murderous rage melty face thing,
He gets superpowers.
he gets like superpowers.
And string eyeball.
It's like
Was that like
some fucking like cholos start like trying to like beat him up, and he starts like throwing people around like he's fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah, and then again, disgusting. He like pulls a thread out of like the corner of his eye, like oh my god.
Which
did that happen even remotely in any of the other ones?
No,
I don't remember.
I don't remember anyone having like stuff in their eyeball. I don't even know what, like, I you could see on the theater screen, like, it looked like it had, like, some contouring to it, so I don't know what the
I
hell
figured it was like a
supposed to be.
thread. It looked like just like black thread. Dink.
There's, like, no context for it. Like, all of a sudden he's like, what the hell? And it's a thin little black line. I don't know what it's supposed to be.
It's just a big, long spider leg, and then the rest of it, dunk.
But then, like, this one, like, the trailer has people running around, like, shooting goddamn shotguns. It shows a couple little girls
like
with,
exorcism,
like, black...
like a Santeria exorcism.
Yeah, like, it shows, like, a couple little girls with, like, just blacked out eyes. It shows old ladies. It shows cult members, like, bursting through doors. I mean...
It's like a room full of doll heads, it looked like.
It's just, like, it feels like it's just...
Just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. It's interesting because it looks like they're bringing back the little girl that, the little girl, like the stepdaughter,
stepdaughter
from the second one is just suddenly back, and she's like a fucking ghost expert. Like, apparently, just meets up with this kid. I don't know extenuating circumstances, but apparently, it's very easy to find her, and she will talk about her crazy family business with
She
you.
has a website. She's got like a GeoCities website. Paranormalactivities.net. .geocity.org.
But I don't know.
It looks very silly.
Yeah.
Like more so than the last one, and that's saying something.
It strikes me as odd because like the last time they did a spinoff was Paranormal Activity 2: Tokyo Night.
What? Wait, I watched that, didn't I?
I don't know. I watched it on YouTube in pieces with like weird Japanese translated to Russian translated to English subtitling. It's fucking bizarre.
I was hoping for the return of Fancam. Fancam was my favorite character.
We shall always miss you, Fancam. But
what else did we get? We got sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, this one just
we got Anchorman 2.
Yeah, got a different trailer for Anchorman 2. This one sold me on it a lot more than the other ones have. Like, it seemed like they got
had
some
more
good
of an
jokes
actual
to it.
plot rather than just like, here are some bits that are in this movie.
I mean, there's not really much to say about that one. The one I did want to talk about.
Yeah, there's one that you're like, huh, I don't know what to think about that. What was that one?
Neighbors.
Oh yeah, Neighbors.
Oh yeah, Seth Rogen is like got a baby, and they start a fraternity starts next door, and it's all very, like, that's sort of like when Matthew Broderick got in that Christmas time war with what's his face, or like, it's like that.
Welcome to Mooseport.
No, that's a different movie. Anyway, it's one of
Or
those
is that the
kind
one
of
with Ray
movies.
Romano?
That's the one with Ray Romano. They're like running for mayor. It's him and Gene Hackman, maybe. They all blend together.
Oh,
but-
the other one is Matthew Broderick and what, Danny DeVito or somebody?
yeah, something like that. They're like their houses are Christmassy, and they want their houses to be more Christmassier than the other one's houses.
But yeah,
It's
like
that sort of like neighbors at war sort of movie.
the frat boys are trying
like
to
the
out
Burbs, but
frat
less
prank them, and
interesting.
like the normal family is trying to like, it's like, you know, it's like, oh, the frat guys, they cut all their hedges to look like, you know, people in sex positions, and
they're like, oh, we're gonna get these hedges out, like the ones in the front and the ones in the back, and they're like, it looks like they're humping. Maybe it'll be funny. I do like Seth Rogen, but on the other hand, Green Hornet.
oh, it's the Green Hornet.
The Green Hornet.
But yeah, I don't know. It seems kind of like a throwaway role. Like it seems like just like a comedy he is in. Mm-hmm. But I mean, who knows? Maybe it's funnier than that trailer was kind of thrown out there. But I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out.
No, the one I was wanting to talk about though was Devil's Due.
I thought it was gonna be like a Rosemary's Baby remake.
I thought it was a remake of Rosemary's
And then
Baby.
Devil's Due popped up, and you started laughing your ass off. It's like, oh, okay, I get it.
It's a movie.
Because she's pregnant. She's pregnant with the
she's got
devil.
The devil baby.
So the Devil's Due, but also the Devil's Due.
because it's like she's pregnant.
So that's all you wanted to say about it. It's like,
It looks fucking stupid.
it does look pretty well, because it's got like,
and it's a found footage movie.
of course it is. Well, it's like they get married, and then they're on their honeymoon, and then she's all like, I'm pregnant, and then they start finding Satan symbols and stuff, and then she gets like baby-related superpowers. Like a car almost hits her, so she punches out all the windows, and it's got like the ubiquitous like stomach with like you can see moving shapes on the underside. It's yeah.
Yeah,
The title is the most interesting thing about it.
I'm honestly guessing that somebody came up with that title. It's like, yeah, but what if it's like Devil's Due? Because like due
It's like
date.
Devil's Due.
And then they wrote a script around that. That I am entirely sure that that's how that came into play. Yeah, it's just the trailer looks terrible. But what struck me as kind of weird too is it's a horror film, and they're marketing it here in October. If it's another horror film with a January release date. Is January the new October? Is that where I can expect all my scary movies now?
There's all sorts of like rules about how you can glean the quality of a movie by when it gets released. And I thought that January is when the not so good movies are coming out.
Well, basically what you want to shoot for is summer.
Everybody
wants to shoot for summer. August is like the dumping ground.
Okay.
Like August,
Well, 'cause, like,
September is where just like
yeah, but
movies
then I
go
think
that
there-
like they
aren't there
can't.
other dumping grounds? Like I thought January was one as well. I'd have to look it up, but like that does seem an odd time of the year to release a horror movie, unless it's like Christmas Day is a good time for Murder the movie.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's kind of odd placement. Like all I could maybe think is like because I think that that Paranormal Activity one is supposed to come out around that same time. That maybe that's what it is. Is like if you're like, well, if they're coming out, then at least we can piggyback onto this. So we'll have 2 found footage horror films in January.
It seems the exact opposite of sound logic, but whatever.
Well, studio logic. Studio logic and actual logic rarely cross paths.
Never the twain shall meet.
Ships in the night, occasionally things work out.
Broken clock is right twice a day.
Yes.
The bird in the hand is right through in the bush.
Well, because that Paranormal Activity one, it was supposed to be out this month. And then, I don't know, something happened and they pushed it back to January.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Which, how bad does something like that have to be that they have to move it? You know, like it's... it's the sort of movie that should be pretty idiot-proof. But it seems like this one's doing a lot of stuff. Like, it seems like there's cars blowing up, there's action shots, like I say, like there's people running around with goddamn chrome-plated shotguns. Nothing about that seems like a Paranormal Activity movie, except for where it says in tiny letters, Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. Like, it says right there, like, yep.
I'm sorry, Brian. I don't want to. I don't have. I'm apparently not as invested in the series as you are, but it does not look like it's going to be very good.
Oh no, I'm
So
I am curious to see where this series goes because every movie it keeps building on. Like the first one was just, hey, there was a demon thing that I saw when I was a kid, and now I'm an adult, and it seems like it's back. Oops, I killed my my man friend.
My douchebag man friend. Mika.
And then it starts going, like, as the series has been going, it's like turning into, like, there's cults, there's like all this weird shit, and like it just keeps building and building, and eventually like where it's at this point is like
What's the thing
like
about
at the end of like the fourth one, not to cut you off, but at the end of the fourth one, like there's that scene where like the girl pans the camera over and there's just hundreds of fucking melty faced women out there doing all fucking like demon face and shit. It's like they're really getting over their heads with this.
The thing about horror movies is it seems like the more sequels they make, the more they feel required to expand the mythos. You know, like Halloween had that problem with like this Thursaz or whatever the rune was, and like
Thorn.
Yeah, the you know, Saw definitely had that problem. You know, it just you can't just keep having the same thing over and over again.
I really wanted to see like where the Saw movies would keep going. Like how many more people could they cram in there, like working behind the scenes?
And
like,
also, who was this guy?
It's like, oh man, Shawnee Smith would do this, and then Costas Mandler would come behind and like do something else, and then this guy would come in. It's like Lee Wannell comes back from the first one, and he's okay, and
It's
he's
like
been doing this the whole time.
Murderous Russian nesting doll. But yeah, you can't just keep having the same thing happen over again. So I guess they just feel like they have to keep expanding the story, and since they're not very good writers, they write themselves into a weird, twisty circle.
Yeah. Well, if it follows a lot of other horror film things, if tropes, if it goes a few more sequels, maybe we'll get one in space.
Please, 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 please. Toby versus Jason X. In space. I would watch the unholy shit out of that movie.
But,
On that note. No,
Yeah.
well, what do we have next week? I get to go see Ender's Game, so I'm excited about that. I don't know what else. Oh, that turkey movie. The turkeys go travel through time.
Freebirds.
Yes. Play Freebirds.
God damn it.